One of the apps that I use quite a lot is Telegram, and there are a lot of memes. There's one particular channel that I'm subscribed to um, on Telegram, and there are lots of memes on that channel, and occasionally, and it may be said in different ways, but occasionally I come across these memes that say that everything is fake. Um, I wouldn't, I don't necessarily agree with that statement, that because it'll be talking about history, so it'll say history is fake, the food is fake, the news is fake, everything is fake. Well, I wouldn't say that 100% of everything we are taught or told is fake, but a lot of what we are told through, whether it be the news, the so-called news. Bear in mind that I don't watch TV, but the history that we were taught in school is fake. Yeah, a lot of it is fake. It doesn't mean that everything is fake, but that also applies to those that we are told are geniuses, like Albert Einstein. Yeah, I grew up, when I was going to school and stuff, when I became aware of this character called Albert Einstein. I think it was mostly because I used to hear, other people talking about him, that he was a genius, and what's that equation that's connected to Albert Einstein? Is it M equals, I can't remember. I can't remember the equation, but yeah, there's reference made to Albert Einstein being a genius, but no, he wasn't a genius. And some of these things, remember that the Holy Scripture say that there's nothing hidden that shall not be exposed. You know, it's a lie that Albert Einstein was a genius. He wasn't a genius. In fact, when Albert Einstein was once asked this question, he was asked, "How does it feel to be the most intelligent person, or something like that, on Earth?" Something along those lines. And he said, I don't know. You'd have to ask Nikola Tesla, because Nikola Tesla was alive at that time. So there, in that very response, Albert Einstein was actually admitting to the fact that he wasn't that intelligent. That Nikola Tesla was more intelligent than him, and Nikola Tesla definitely was more intelligent than him. I don't feel personally. I don't feel that there's anything that Albert Einstein has done to to better humanity. Whereas when it comes to Nikola Tesla, we use AC electricity in our homes. That was invented um, by Nikola Tesla. I beg your pardon. So is it M equals NC squared? I can't remember that silly equation, which, some of these things that we're taught in school don't actually help in any way. Some of these equations that we were taught in school, it does not help me with my life here on Earth. So I just wanted to say just a few words about Albert Einstein on this video, and then the following video will explain more about him and how he was a fraud. Personally, I believe, from what I've read and studied, I believe that Albert Einstein was pushed forward by the Jesuits, um, as they were fighting against God's truth, because one of the things that Albert Einstein did is that he came up with a theory of relativity. And a lot of people don't know this, including Christians, don't know this, that the reason why Albert Einstein was pushed forward by the Jesuits and came up with that stupid theory of relativity was because around that time there were two men. Excuse me. There were two men. These two men were Michelson and Morley. They did some experiments and found out that in the experiments they were basically looking into whether the Earth was moving, whether the Earth moved or whether it was static. And in the experiments they found out that the Earth is static, just like the Holy Scriptures say. So because of that, in order to counteract or to counter what these men had come up with, Albert Einstein came up and said that everything was relative. In fact, there's an absurd explanation where he says that if someone falls to the ground, they may not necessarily be falling. It might be the Earth coming up to hit them in the face. So it's very stupid. The theory of relativity is stupid. That basically there are no absolutes in the theory of relativity. So and so yes, there's one significant significant thing about Albert Einstein. He was said to be a genius and came up with this theory of relativity to counter this experiment that had been done. I'm just explaining it again just to make it clear that he was a fraud. And then the second thing is that Albert Einstein was friends with George Lemaitre, and George Lemaitre is said to be the father of the Big Bang. So George Lemaitre was a Jesuit, and don't forget that Albert Einstein was Jewish as well. There's obviously a conspiracy or an agenda there, putting a Jew in the forefront. Don't forget that Karl Marx as well was said to be Jewish. All these characters were said to be Jewish, including the characters who are these European Jews who are said to be the heads of these news channels and all these organizations, and the billionaires and the millionaires who are said to be Jews. It's all this is being done to make it look like the European Jews are the ones who are running the show, but it's not true. The fact is, it's a Jesuit order, and the Jesuit order is the militia of the papacy, who were founded or formed to fight against Protestantism. So I was explaining that Einstein was friends with George Lemaitre, who came up with this Big Bang theory to counter what the Bible says about our origins. So, and Einstein said that the Big Bang was the most wonderful explanation of our origins that he had ever heard. So there's your genius right there, who says that the Big Bang is the best explanation, or the most wonderful explanation of our origins. Now, if you believe Einstein, then I feel sorry for you, because I don't believe an ounce of what he said. Yeah, but I just wanted to say a few words, and then I'll play a video here that explains more about Albert Einstein. Remembering that most of what we're fed is not true. It's false, because we are in an information war, and we are fighting against the devil and his fallen demonic angels, who are constantly telling lies. So let's not just swallow everything we hear or everything we are taught, hook, line, and sinker. We also have to be question everything is the best way to be, and believe in God's word.
Yeah, a lot of creative people had mindless jobs. Michelangelo worked in a marble quarry. Herman Melville was a customs agent. Albert Einstein worked for the patent office.
And what is it you want to patent, Herr Smith?
I call it Smith's theory of relativity.
Hey, look at this.
What?
Well, in 1895, Einstein, he failed a simple entrance exam to an engineering school in Zurich. Okay, he was a dropout. He was a dropout student. He was cruel to his first wife. He beat her. He cheated on her. Then he married his cousin, who he cheated on constantly. He estranged from his sons. He left them with no money, although he had it. He was a Marxist who hated McCarthy for hunting commies. In fact, he was mentioned by Stalin's Soviets as a close friend. This TV show says, oh, he was just an internationalist. No, he was a commie. He says he was a pacifist, but he wanted war with Germany. He actually wanted to genocide Germans. There was a quote where he said, the Germans can be killed or constrained after the war, but they cannot be re-educated to a democratic way of thinking and acting. It is hoped that by war's end, they will largely have been killed off. Albert Einstein said this. At Lincoln University, California, Einstein gave a speech in which he called racism a disease of white people and added, I do not intend to be quiet about it. But he was vehemently anti-nationalist and anti-white, but very, very pro-Jewish. In fact, he was offered a presidency of Israel. He politely declined the offer by saying, I'm deeply moved by the offer from our state of Israel and at once saddened and ashamed that I cannot accept. He was a hardcore Zionist, but opposed nationalism at every turn for Europeans. In fact, he wanted to crush it. So what did he give us anyway? Everything is relative, moral relativism, nothing is certain, no such thing as an absolute, anything goes, what is truth anyway? There's no meaning except relativism, of course, right? So only his view of the universe is the right one that we're all choking to death on, right? Many physicists disagree with his theories because that's all they are, is theories. Well, how has he even gotten this big in the first place? Well, it's a fact that his work was not only twisted, unscientific ideas, but that it was science that was plagiarized. I know Red Eyes did a show on this, a great show on this, covering this in detail. His writings included his popular 1924 book, Meaning of Relativity, which was plagiarized from the Lorentz transformation, plagiarism of the mass energy equivalence, largely based on the work of George Fitzgerald and Hendrik Lorentz, Irish and Dutch theoretical physicists, and also the work of French physicist Henri, help me with this, Poincaré.
Henri Poincaré.
There you go. He developed
Henri Poincaré.
There you go. He developed a theory of relativity years before Einstein. And it gets worse. Plagiarism of Paul Gerber's groundbreaking work on the speed of gravity. Okay, this was a German guy. And the idea that the speed of light was a constant and was independent of the motion of its source was not Einstein's at all, but was proposed by the Scottish scientist James Maxwell in 1878. Also, Bernhard Riemann, a German, was the first to develop a sound non-Euclidean geometry, which is the basis of all the math he used to describe relativity. Also, it goes on, Heinrich Hertz, the father of the unit of frequency Hertz, right, sound vibration, discovered that electrodes illuminated with ultraviolet light and they create electric sparks more easily. Well, in 1905, Einstein published a paper explaining the same experiment from Hertz's photoelectric effect, and it was actually Hertz's discovery that led to the quantum revolution, yet Einstein was awarded the Nobel Prize in 1921 for the discovery of the law of the photoelectric effect. Okay? It goes on. Nikola Tesla, he could not stand Einstein. In fact, he called him an old crank. He gave a scathing analysis of Einstein's relativity theory, calling it a magnificent mathematical garb, which fascinates, dazzles, and makes people blind to the underlying errors. The theory is like a beggar clothed in purple whom ignorant people take for a king. He said this in 1935. John Murray Cudahy, a brilliant known sociologist, said Einstein was motivated by a desire to distort and destroy Western science. Very, very accurate. Dayton Clarence Miller, president of Britain's Royal Astronomical Society, disagreed with all Einstein's theory. He had his own absolute space theory, which is interesting. And it goes on. 100 prestigious Austrian and German scientists denounced him in this book, 100, I don't know how to say it, Otteringen, I'll pull it up right here, accused him of being a pseudo-mysticism and pseudo-mystic and just speculating everything, basically. 100 scientists. H.L. Mencken, there's sound reason for believing that Einstein will not hold up in the long run. His curved space may be classed with psychosemantic bumps of Gall and Spurzheim, two other brilliant scientists. So the point is, we wouldn't be in the Stone Age without him, hardly. We'd be cultivating other planets by now, right? And then people who say, oh, you're just jealous of him, or, oh, it's because he's Jewish. No, it's because he was a thief, a liar, and a plagiarist, and an awful person in his private life, and, true brilliant people couldn't stand him, and they viewed him as a crackpot, and a liar and a plagiarist because he was. And Einstein criticized scientists he felt threatened by true geniuses like Erwin Schrödinger, quantum theory, Werner Heisenberg, Hilbert Planck. He was actually the jealous one who was attacking all these, but he was propped up as the archetype of brilliance, genius in science, the smartest man alive, and he was a Jew, right? So he's just a pure creation, basically, of Jewish media hype that was manufactured in the 20s, basically like a pop star. But he was a commie who failed his college entrance exam and shamelessly ripped off true geniuses. So he's all smoke and mirrors. He's a fraud, people. And I don't know if you guys have heard this before, but it's massive. Germany, Henrik, as you said, was thriving. I mean, just amazing minds were coming out of Germany in this time. It's not like Einstein took Germany out of some kind of Stone Age and they were, they were not going to advance without his brilliance, right?